Jake Parker was 17 when his grandfather passed away. Back then, Jake didn't cry. Not because he wasn't sad, but because, in his mind, Grandpa was just another quiet, old man. Always on the porch, sipping black coffee, whittling wood, and dropping odd one-liners like, "Chop your own wood. It'll warm you twice. Keep your word like you keep your breath, quiet and steady. Don't run from storms, son. Walk through them. They never last." To Jake, those words were just background noise. They didn't make sense to a teenager who was busy dreaming about college, making money, and escaping the slow pace of small-town life. Grandpa's advice felt outdated, out of place, and frankly, useless. He left town at 18, built a life, chased ambition. Now Jake was 37. He had what people called a successful life, a six-figure job, a house, a car, a family. But beneath the surface, he was crumbling. His marriage was a string of arguments and silence. His son barely knew him. He hadn't felt truly alive in years. Work was a cage dressed like a dream. He drank more than he admitted, slept less than he should. He was surviving, not living. One evening, after a brutal argument with his wife and a soul-draining call from his boss, Jake snapped. He drove into the night, not knowing where he was headed, until he found himself in front of a place he hadn't visited in 2 decades, his grandfather's old cabin. The windows were dusty, the paint cracked, but the porch swing still creaked like it remembered him. Jake sat down. No phone, no Wi-Fi, just wind, crickets, and memory. And in that stillness, he heard it not from the wind, but from deep inside. Chop your own wood. It'll warm you twice. He'd always thought that was about firewood. But now it clicked. It was about the effort, the process. Not outsourcing everything in life. Not chasing shortcuts. Doing the work, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and letting the effort shape you as much as the result. Keep your word like you keep your breath, quiet and steady. Back then, he thought that meant don't lie. But now it meant follow through. Not grand promises, but the small, daily acts of reliability. Show up. Be there. Keep choosing your people even when it's not easy. Don't run from storms, son. Walk through them. They never last. He'd spent years avoiding hard conversations, numbing pain, pretending everything was fine. But pain doesn't disappear, it waits. And healing only begins when you face what hurts. Jake cried for the first time in years that night. Not just from regret, but from recognition. The man he was wasn't who he wanted to be, but he could change. And so he did. He took a break from work, real time off, not emails on vacation time. He apologized to his wife, genuinely. He opened up. They started therapy. He spent weekends with his son, teaching him to fish, just like Grandpa once did with him. He picked up woodworking, started journaling, stopped chasing perfection. One night, months later, his son sat beside him on that same porch. Jake told him something. Storms pass, son. Don't run from them. Walk through. His son rolled his eyes. That's weird, Dad. Jake smiled. Yeah, he said. It is. But one day, it'll make sense. The wisdom we reject in youth is often the guidance we desperately need in adulthood. Life has a way of making sense in reverse. Sometimes, our elders don't give us instructions, they give us keys. And those keys unlock doors we don't even know exist until we grow old enough to walk through them. Have you ever had a piece of advice that didn't make sense until years later? Share it in the comments. Your story might be the key someone else needs today. If this story spoke to you, leave a like. It tells us we're making the kind of content that matters. Subscribe to Wisdom Tales for more powerful life stories. And remember, the loudest voices aren't always the wisest. Sometimes, the real answers come from the whispers of those who loved us enough to leave them behind.